stories. And this is what this old man is doing. He's passing down that story, and he's talking about 3D5. 3D5, there was promises made. Promises that have yet to be fulfilled still to this day. And he's telling his grandchildren about these promises in 3D5. And if his grandchildren don't understand Cree, like if I was to tell you something and I only spoke Cree and you didn't understand it, then that message would be lost forever. Right? So that's why it's important for you guys not only to understand, but to speak your language as well. Because this is supposed to be your first language. But you guys, you got robbed of this because of what happened at residential school. Me and Mr. T, our generation, we are lucky that this is our first language. Okay, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm sure Mr. T is as well. Because in the houses that we grew up in, only Cree was spoken. Tapitawgi na inwanyon. Munay kutsiya kanasi mo. Nobody spoke English. Only a little bit every now and then, but for the most part, it was Cree. So our first language is Cree. We didn't learn to speak English every day until we started school. And we started school in nursery in 1987. And we were allowed to speak Cree in the classroom, but we were encouraged to speak English. Because everything that we were taught was in English. ABCs is in English. We weren't taught E, I, U, A, P, P, Pu, Pa. These are what you would call the alphabets or Cree, because these are the sounds that we make. Okay, so we were taught ABCs, we were taught how to spell our names. Each desk was put in twos, by pairs, and me and Mr. T sat together. So me and Mr. T grew up together. Our names were written on top there, and that's how we learned how to spell our name. Okay? So, going back to this, we are going to translate this. Well, you guys are going to translate. Astamuta nusisim. Ewi atsumustatago. Umagagi asut tamago yak. 3D5. Mots kiigino. Kutaka asut tamatun. Tigi pemini gawinano. Eo goodness ki pema senaigan. Ego tamistay asut tamagewin ki pagidnigatyo. Ego animanya ma ewi atsumustato. So, Astamuta. Astamuta. If I say that to you, what am I want? Jackson. Astamuta. Yes. Nusisim. Nusisim is what? Nimusum is grandpa. Nugum is grandma. If they say to you, Nusisim, what are they saying to you? So, Robert, when Don or Liz talk to you and say Nusisim, what are you to them? Yes, my grandchild. Astamuta Nusisim. You know what? We should have made this plural. I'm gonna make this plural. Nusisima. Plural means more than one. Astamuta nusisima. Come here, my grandchildren. Ewi atsumustatago. Ewi means I want to do something. Atsumustatago. Atsimo. Atsimo means to tell a. Yes. I want to tell you a story. Well, there's not really periods there, but that's where like each one stops. Uma kagi asutamago ya. Uma means this one. Kagi asutamago ya. Asutamage. Asutamo. Okay, so when you're a parent, sometimes when your kids grow older, sometimes they don't listen to you. So sometimes you have to negotiate. Negotiate means to make a deal. If you get your room clean and you do the dishes, I'll buy you a gift card for Xbox or whatever. Okay, so what did I just say? I made starts with a P. Yes. Uma gagi asun tamago ya. Umagagi asun tamago ya. This one right here, again, is past tense. Kagi means it happened already. The promises that were made in 3D5. Umagagi asun tamago ya. 3D5. Okay. Mot kiigino. Mot means no. Kiigino. Kiigin means something that you're gonna get. So what's kiigino means we did not get these promises. We did not get them. Kutak. Kutak ka sa tamatwin. Kikita mo yung gawin ano. Kutak. So if I say, Jackson, bring me that book and he brings me the white one, but I don't want the white one, and I tell him, kutak, which means I want the other one, kutak. Kutak asutamatun. Again, asutamatun, the promises. Kiki pemi ni gawin ano. Pemi means to give it to me. We were given other promises. Ewogun niskipe masinaigan. Ewogun means that one. Niskipe means flood. Masinaigan is book. Ewogun niskipe masinaigan. That's the flood agreement. They're talking about. Who do you think they're talking about? Yes, hydro. Ewogun niskipe masinaigan. Niskipe masinaigan means the flood agreement. So, in the flood agreement, egotamistay asutamagi hindi pagidnigato. Egota means there, right there. Mistaye is an adjective. Okay? An adjective is a word that is used to describe something. Mistaye. If I say atisis will only be that much. Ati would be that, but mistaye is a lot. Mistaye asun tamagi hindi pagidnigato. Pagitina means to put it down. Okay, so that meant that there was a lot of other promises that were made. Ego anima, anima, Ewiachimostatago. Ego anima, anima. That means that one. That's what. Ewiachimostatago. That's what I want to tell you. Because this right here, it's not just a story. Most of this stuff here is true. And it affected lots of people. Not only here in Grand Rapids or Easterville, but other places where there's dams. When Manitoba Hydro, the first talks of development or to make this dam started in 1957. In 1964, that's when they completed the dam. Or no, 1962 or 63. Anyway, in 1962, they came to Chemawawin and they made a presentation. And they said, we will build you new houses. Because back then, every house had a wood stove. That was the heat. They had kerosene lanterns. That was the light. And they came to Chemawawin and they said, this is what we're going to give you. And that's what they did. They flipped light switches on and off. And they thought, like, we'll make your life easier. That's what they said. And every house will have a heater. You just flick a button in your house to bring the heat. You don't have to make a fire. And they said everybody would get a new house, a brand new house. We are going to build them. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay us anything. There's lots of, and back then people had horses, dog sleds. Dogs were used for hunting, for traveling. Dogs were very important. And they said, we'll even give you dog food. We'll even feed your horses. And when it was time to move, they said, some people said, no, I don't want to move. And then they said, if you don't move, we're going to flood this place anyway. So it's up to you. We don't care. They didn't use those words, but that's basically what they said. Okay? So they had to, there was only a handful of houses that were built. They didn't even make one for everybody. They had to move the houses, put them on a barge, and take them across the water from Chemawawin all the way to Easterville. And they even dropped one house, it fell into the lake. So the promises that were made, we're still expecting them. They say, oh, it's in the mail, it's coming. But we all know that's, well, for lack of a better term, BS, right? So, and that's what one of the promises that were made that they said to us. Oh, and the reason why today is called Easterville is because at that time in 1964, the chief's name was Donald Easter. That's why it's called Easterville today. And there was a chief there. He was a chief for a very long time. His name was Georgie George. But he was getting older and he didn't want to be chief anymore, so he stepped down. And that's when Donald Easter took over. But Georgie George, what he did was, he told the people, don't go. We're going to be poor over there. We won't have nothing. All these promises that they're making, we're not going to get that. That's what he said. He knew. Okay? And I asked some elders about that. Like, what was it like at that time? Maybe there was something called a language barrier. You know, sometimes when you don't understand and you just like nod along. Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe they didn't understand what the people were saying. But, like I said, this not only affected you guys, it affected us, and still to this day, one of the elders that I talked to, he said everybody had a garden in Chemawawin. People planted their own vegetables, they had horses, there was grass everywhere, people played soccer. And here's another little thing that most people don't know or forget. Chemawawin, Easterville, and Moose Lake was one community. Some people moved to Easterville, the other people moved to Moose Lake. That's why, like, sometimes for us, like Easterville and Moose Lake, it's like almost like family. Okay? So that's why some of us, well, some of them, they sound exactly how we sound in Easterville. Because 9 times out of 10, you can tell where somebody's from by the way they sound when they speak Cree. For Grand Rapids, like, you guys talk a little bit faster. Kasi, kamani nga kasi sa Chakenta man. Okay? That's something like that. And that's how my dad talks. Because he grew up here in Grand Rapids. Okay, so that's why it's important, not only for you guys, but your children, your grandchildren. They have to know what was promised.